flat wartime deflectors. Do you think I should build one?
I'm not sure, but we are live now.
Oh,
we're live for the. Sorry. We are live for the 12th episode of Burning Subjects, and let's wait for people to arrive. Actually, let's see. Oh, there's one. But anyway,
so Michael is Michael
coming back? Not sure.
Oh, that's
But anyway, welcome back to Burning Subjects. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about the top 10 best excursion stars. But when we say this, we're talking about locomotives that do their job the best in excursion service. They either put on a show, or they show exactly what it was like for them back in the day, or they delight kids or everyone, or if they are overall just enjoyable machines, like even for the crewmates. Like, these excursion stars in particular are going to be a lot that you can name, but most of these excursion stars are, of course, known because of how great they perform. And when it comes to their performance, the world is a stage, and a stage is a world of entertainment, isn't it? If you catch my reference there.
Is it like a layout is a lot like a play?
I guess. But either way, we once again have Steven, also known as
Southern 5 Chime.
Yeah, Southern 5 Chime, and we also have Jim Vanderkolk, which who
Southern 5 Chime.
Wait, Southern 5.
Some random
fucking. Glad I didn't label this for kids, but anyway. Well, let's begin. Number 10. Strasbourg, number 90.
Didn't you say this was going to be a top 20?
No, the next one's going to be a top 20. You know,
okay.
It's the Thanksgiving one.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, the Soul Survivors.
Yes. But anyway. Number 10 is...
Now we're going to talk about Strasbourg 90.
Yes, that's number 10 for best excursion stars. And, of course, you all...
I'm gonna head out. Go, notify me when you're...
And since
he's gone.
Michael's gone.
He's gone.
It's just me and Andrew.
Well, either way, I guess while we're waiting for...
just kind of messing with you.
Oh.
And, I don't have anything really to say about that engine.
I mean, we don't really, because... I mean, what is there to say? I mean, just look at it. It is a great representation of a large steam locomotive in operation, showing, you know, its power and its overall performance. It's the largest locomotive at Strasbourg currently, and it's one of the most famous. Because of how well the locomotive performs, of course. And it puts on quite a show, doesn't it? Especially with that Reading 6 chime and the legend of the Ghost number 6. You guys have heard of the Ghost number 6, right?
Oh, no. What? Why did Michael just move into another channel?
Was probably an accident.
Oh, he moved into the AFK channel.
Ah.
Whoop. But anyway, we all already know the story of Strasbourg number 4. Well, I mean, Strasbourg 90 number 4. Wow. Wow.
You haven't got hot to English.
Yeah, this week's been pretty rough. But either way, I really don't have to say much about Strasbourg 90 other than, you know, when she was... that we've basically beaten 90 to death. But we already know, you know, Strasbourg 90 is only one of two 10-O's operating in America, and the other being Frisco 1630, is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Russian piece of kit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say shit.
But anyway, number 9, which is the one that I was talking with my friends about a little bit much because this one's a very unexpected one. Anyway, number 9. New Hope in Ivyland, number 9.
It's that little U.S. Army 060.
Yeah, it's a U.S. Army 060, which most people forget that this locomotive actually even operated at all. But
I didn't know it existed.
this series of 060s are known because of, 1, their looks, 2, their incredible power. They're a dozen. They're a dime a dozen, but once you find one, you don't want to let them go. In fact, currently there's only one operational, but number 9 is the one we're going to be talking about, since it's had quite a consist of cosmetic changes over the years. At one time, originally, it had a centered headlight for a switcher, which the only other 060 switcher that I can name
Oh,
of.
now I see what you mean. You mean those 060 tender engines with the air compressor mounted on the front like a goatee?
Yeah, it really does.
Partially on the front of the smoke box, but not covering up the door in any
Yeah.
way.
Basically,
Yeah, like 4039 in Morris County Central. I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
that one railway that Owen talks about quite a lot, I must say. And also, can I also mention another locomotive that used to operate at New Hope and Ivyland, Canadian National number 1533.
oh yeah. Wait, 1533 is which? Ah, crap! I forgot. Wow.
Looks like 460.
What's
Yeah.
it? Oh, okay.
It's 1098.
Well, currently, the reason that it's actually on this list is because, 1, it's short excursion career, but it's really lively one. It really put on a show when it came to running in the on the railroad, and of course, its cosmetic changes gave it a very unique life when it came to being an 060. Not really something you'd expect. And another thing, currently it's under a rebuild to hopefully get it back to operation.
Albeit a very slow one.
Very slow on, but it is gaining progress steadily. I have seen some progress myself. It's actually looking pretty good so far.
Slow but steady, my friend. Slow but steady.
Yes. But then again, the slower you take, the better the outcome will be, hopefully. But then again, some locomotives
But don't be like James May.
and don't be like Union Pacific 428. No.
Yeah.
We don't talk about the engine anymore. But anyway, on to number 8, which is also a New Hope locomotive. New Hope Valley number 17.
Oh, yes, that locomotive. New Hope Valley Scenic Railroad, for those who don't know. I believe it's somewhere in North Carolina.
Yes. And the funny thing is, this locomotive, number 17, is the smallest on this list, but also the most sort of unusual.
What was it? New Hope and
New Hope Valley number 17, which is a tank engine. A tank engine, yes.
a little saddle tank.
Yeah.
No 40.
But for an 040 tank engine, this thing puts on the show that you will never forget. Most tank engines nowadays, you'd see them as, just simple little engines doing, I don't know, just back and forth work. But this one is quite the powerhouse for an 040. In fact, at one point, it was even fitted with an N&W hooter, which...
Like a low-pitched one? Or a low bell, I mean.
Low pitch. It was only for a little while, though. But either way, this locomotive, as I said, it puts on quite the show. And that's really why it's on. This list is really all about locomotives that put on a show that, what it was like for them back then. And it shows you how hard these machines really work. These beautiful machines. Anyway, Now onto the more.
I hate to say, unfortunately, the engine in 2017 had to go through its 3254-day inspection, if you catch my drift.
Oh yeah. I forgot.
So it's not operational right now, although maybe in a couple of years it will be. And I can hopefully have another steam engine to see. I mean, I did see 1702 like last year in North Carolina. And of course, I do plan to hopefully go see one of the Tweezy engines during Christmas.
Hopefully, anyway. And I'm taking my family up to Cumbers and Toltec this Christmas. Hopefully, anyway. But anyway, on to number 7, which I actually kind of want to wait for Mike. Is Mike back or is he not?
No, he's still in the AFK channel. What the hell is his deal?
I don't know. Maybe, well, he said he's still in class or something.
Oh, right, of course.
But anyway, number 7.
Since, thank God, I've already graduated.
Well, number 7, which this locomotive is has been a pretty obscure one in the last few years. And to be honest, I'm surprised not too many people actually talk about this locomotive that often. Number 7, Milwaukee Road number 261.
Oh, yeah. And a few days ago or last week, we discovered that engine was temporarily named DC Everest while it was on display at the not the Virginia Museum, but the National Railroad Museum in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
But yeah, Milwaukee Road 261 is on this list because of its mainline reputation. Not only has it traveled basically all over the world, not all over the world, but basically
all across the United States.
All across the United States, and it's also surprising that the locomotive is still operational today. Not only going to Steamtown, but also going to the NRHS convention a couple of times, which, yeah. Honestly, 261 deserves a little bit more recognition, especially since currently I think it's the only Milwaukee Road locomotive operational. Is it? Or is there another that I'm forgetting?
Definitely the only one.
Yeah, okay. But yeah.
Still none of the smaller locomotives.
I don't really know of any other Milwaukee Road locomotives that have been preserved. Northern number 265. That's it.
But that's it, really. But yeah, Soul Survivor, Soul Liver, beautiful excursion service.
Not a Soul Survivor because...
Not Soul Survivor, because it has a sister locomotive.
Preserved.
Yeah, it has a sister locomotive. Well, it's a Soul Runner, basically. It's a Soul member, I guess you should say, because it's basically representing its entire class by running on the main line.
All right, I'm back.
All right,
and
there you are.
Just missed our short but sweet segment of Milwaukee Road 261.
Wait, was that why Andrew wanted me here?
Yeah.
Damn it!
And we also talked about Strasburg 90, New Hope and Island 9, and New Hope Valley 17.
17.
So, wait, you talked about 40?
No, we didn't talk about 40.
40
we talked about New Hope Valley. We talked about New Hope Valley number 17 and New Hope and Ivy Land and number 9.
And 40 isn't on this list. I'm sorry. But he is in the honorable mentions.
So what spot was number 90?
Number 90 is number 10.
At the bottom of the barrel.
So far, anyway.
Okay.
So far. But things are going to get interesting. Number 6. Great Smoky Mountains Railroad, number 1702.
Yes. But
I'm actually surprised because you put it on your overrated Steam Stars list. Do you regret it now?
Yes, I regret it because I didn't know that it was... I know so many people who obsess over 1702, but then I found the other communities and they didn't even know that the locomotive was operational. So I was thinking, oh.
Yeah, and it might be really good at its job.
That's actually why it's on this list. Because, one, it's the only operational S-160 in America, currently anyway.
Well, I think there's
There are several others operational in the United Kingdom, but
not in America.
But I think 1702 is the only one to be operational so far in the States.
Yeah. And also,
there are a few that are undergoing an operational overhaul, like there's that Alaska Railroad 557.
Oh yeah, 557. And I forgot about 557. But either way, back to 1702. The reason that this locomotive is on the list at number 6 is because, one, we already discussed it. It's the only S-160 operating in the States. 2, it's currently deemed by most as the best-looking S-160. Centered headlight, American flags, black paint. What a beauty.
I wonder what the worst-looking S-160 is.
I don't want to imagine that.
One in scrapyard condition.
Ooh!
Then again, I've seen 1702 in kind of a scrapyard condition. It was in 2012. I didn't actually go to Great Smoky Mountains Railroad that day or whatever, but I saw it on a video.
But I mean, like scrapyard condition and with the original look, basically,
No, it was at the Great Smoky Mountains Railroad shops. And
No. I'm not talking about 1702. I'm just giving my description of what the worst S-160 would look like.
Okay, fine, whatever.
Just something in scrapyard condition and that is in the original look.
Well,
That's what I mean.
Well, another reason that the 1702 is on this list is because of the railroad it actually runs on. Isn't that? It's really our first one on this list that is giving credit for the railroad it runs on. Even though number 90 runs on the Strasburg Railroad, of course, obviously. But anyway, 1702. Wow. I can't.
1702.
You forgot how to English.
This is not my day for English. But either way, 1702 currently runs on the Great Smoky Mountains. And, well, I must say that the scenes in the Great Smoky Mountains definitely live up to their name. It's like it really is a trip back in time when it comes to going here. Beautiful scenery, beautiful mountains, and a hard-working steam locomotive. That's all you need for a good scenic railroad, if you ask me anyway. What is that sound?
What?
I hear like a...
Oh, that's me walking on plates on my big and Gmod.
Oops.
I just enabled some collisions on some of the S-prop plates, and they kind of sound like plastic. So yeah.
Whoopsies. Well,
It happened.
Number 5, Norfolk and Western Class J, number 611.
Yes.
Who, of course, you should have seen this one coming when it comes to best excursion stars. Currently, it's one of very few operational streamlined steam locomotives. One of the others being Southern Pacific 449, which isn't on this list, sadly.
Oh, right, 611. That's what we're talking about.
611 is, the sole survivor for the Class J built by the Norfolk and Western. And it's also on this list because, one, it's past excursion life, serving on the Norfolk Southern's personal steam program. And currently, in its second excursion life, it has gone quite a few places. For a coal burner, on the main line, it's a pretty rare thing nowadays. So 611, even being named officially as the Spirit of Roanoke, has earned its spot as number 5. But it couldn't really go any higher because it can't really do much anymore. Sadly, because
it's currently landlocked at North Carolina Transportation Museum in Spencer, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is the place that it can occasionally operate. albeit it has to go back to the Virginia Museum of Transportation, where it just sits there and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But what was I talking about again? But let's just hope that Amtrak revokes those fucking bans on, private charters or whatever the fuck, so 611 and other locomotives can actually operate on the main line again.
I hope, because
Agreed.
Yeah.
CSX is bringing back, allowing steam to come back onto their tracks. So won't Amtrak slowly maybe make some agreements? Maybe. Let's see how it goes. But anyway, number 4. This is the largest locomotive on the list. You could probably guess what it is. Union Pacific Big Boy, number 4014. No, Union Pacific Big Boy, number 4014.
Oh,
Close enough.
An obvious. Oh. Anyway,
Yes, it's a fucking novice in the world of excursions, but
yeah. But
look,
I
it's
just
a big boy. Argument invalid.
I just couldn't resist putting the only excursion big boy on the list because, as I said, it's the only big boy in the world that has been restored to operation and has pulled a passenger train. So what do you expect?
I thought there were actually some big boys that, pulled farewell to steam trips. That would actually have been cool if that actually happened, though.
No, sadly not.
The closest we got to big boys pulling passenger
3967, wasn't it?
No, the closest we got to big boys pulling passenger trains were stories about them pulling troop trains during the Second World War, maybe even during the Korean War. But the thing is, I have never seen a single photograph or like a small bit of video footage of a big boy on those kinds of trains. So I don't know if that's true if they pull troop trains. So
I did see some footage of a Class A pulling a troop train.
Huh.
And it's quite literally flying down the rails, and it's quite a long train.
Oh, and another thing. 4014 is also, is currently the only oil-fired big boy left, in the world. 4005 was a test, but it was a failure.
Or some people would say that it was so-so. Like, mechanically speaking, it was fine. It just didn't make a whole lot of economic sense. And the engine kind of struggled to get from one oil tank to the next. Whereas older sources have probably said, you had that single burner in the firebox, which couldn't provide uneven heating and caused poor fuel combustion, etc., etc. So I would say it was so-so at best. So,
but yeah. But 4014...
Meh. Needless to say, the 4014 is the proper refinement of an oil-fired big boy.
Yes.
It might also have to do with the fact that they use a different kind of oil altogether. Because instead of just using heavy fuel oil, I think that nowadays they predominantly use recycled engine oil from UP's vast fleet of diesel-electric locomotives. So they just turn that into fuel and boom.
Wow.
And it burns it cleanly, I think.
Wow.
And I believe fairly efficiently. Hell, like in an interview that I saw during the like shortly after the Golden Spike 150 celebrations, like there was this guy who was talking to Ed and Austin, Ed Dickens and Austin Parker, and Austin commented that the 4014 burns oil nearly as well as the 844. Like all you really need is just to pull the injector every once in a while and make a few fine adjustments to the burner and so forth. But yeah.
But what do you expect?
Maybe that's a bit too literal, but that just shows the friggin' genius that Ed has on display.
And of course, the other reason that 4014 is on this list is because it literally gets to go anywhere. I mean, except for
anywhere that the Union Pacific would allow.
Yeah, anywhere that anywhere on the Union Pacific system, the 4014 can go onto it. It can go anywhere. Anyone can see this beautiful locomotive operating. And quite frankly,
unless you live anywhere outside UP territory, in that case, take a fucking drive to it.
yeah.
So don't pester Union Pacific to visit Steamtown. Don't ask them to come to New York. They won't go further east than Chicago.
But yeah, they will go anywhere they can go to.
Yeah.
And
there may be a few curves in the track that are a bit on the tight side, but if they take it slow and steady, maybe grease up the rails, then they'll be fine.
yeah.
Like, I've seen footage of, quite a few railroad workers kind of swarming around the locomotive, like giving instructions of, like, okay, move her a little forward, like move the locomotive a bit forward, and etc. Greasing up the rails because, it's a really big locomotive. Like, Ed is kind of right. It's quite literally two 844s in one.
Yeah. But what do you
Granted,
expect?
the driving wheels are smaller, but still, you get the point. So, yeah.
But yeah.
What's next?
Well, we're still not done with the 4014 yet.
Oh.
One last thing. This locomotive actually became a bit of a, well, it's now an icon for the American railroads at this point. Britain has the Flying Scotsman. Now we have the 4014.
Which I'm currently driving in Gmod.
Yeah.
That.
But yeah. But honestly, we really should be thankful that 4014 is even operational at all. And that's really why that's one of the biggest reasons.
We shouldn't be bitching and moaning about how it doesn't burn coal anymore. Not every single steam engine out there has to burn coal, you fucking little baby boomers.
I bet you didn't know that 1702 burns oil.
Awesome.
And 3751 burns oil. How about that?
But that's because Santa Fe.
Yeah.
But from what I've heard, some of the later Santa Fe locomotives were built directly out of the factory as oil burners.
Yeah, like
the Southern Pacific.
Like 2926 was built directly to burn oil. But anyway, on to
obviously what's his face. Well, the cab forwards were obviously built as oil burners.
Yeah,
obvious.
If you think those locomotives would burn coal, you're a fucking moron.
Unless you made some sort of complicated system to like suck the coal into the firebox.
What? Okay.
Well, the Germans managed to do it, but I don't like to talk about that.
But anyway,
I don't know how they did it, and I don't care how they did it. Moving on.
Let's go on to number 3, which is a very popular locomotive for its wheel arrangement. Number 3 is Southern Railway 4501.
Yes, the little Mikado that could, and that got a Chinese upgrade.
But yeah, 4501 is, in my opinion, probably the best Mikado to operate in the States so far. Well, one of the best. You can all, complain about Nickel Plate 587 or Canadian National 3254 if you dare. And
no, don't even go there. Don't even go there, you stupid foamers. Don't even mention that horrible engine.
And
that is nowhere even close.
Yeah. Let's just
obviously 4501 is way better. Obviously, I am a little bit of a Southern enthusiast, and it is surprisingly in better condition and still operable today. And it's
and you can also complain about 4072, whatever. But anyway,
I remember seeing some pictures of 4070, which looks a little bit like 4501 the front end.
But either way, let's talk about why 4501 is on this list. 4501 currently is one of the best operating 282 Mikados. in the States still. In fact, I think currently it's the only standard gauge to operating. Or is it? Or am I wrong?
So there's Sioux Line 1003.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Or 1003, however you want to pronounce that.
Oh yeah.
Maybe,
well,
like,
4501 is the only one operating an excursion service anyway.
Well, what about all those like logging Mikados on tourist lines?
Those ones are narrow gauge.
No. I think there's McCloud River engines or something like that. I think there's one on the Virginia and Truckee. McCloud.
Oh
River
yeah. You're right.
Yeah, out of all engines.
4501 is probably the only Mikado tender engine.
I think so anyway. But either way, 4501.
No, there are the logging Mikados I'm talking about are tender engines, with the exception of that number 18, that Hammond Lumber Company, whatever.
That's 17.
Yeah, that's a tank engine. 17 is a tank engine, and also don't forget number 10 too, from the same company.
But are we going to talk about the 4501 or what?
Yeah, but either way, 4501 has really gained a reputation in the railroad community because 1, cosmetic differences, 2, beautiful performance, 3, excursion life filled with it.
4, at one point it was crescent green because fuck the
Yes.
purists.
But either way, another thing, of course, is its constant reputation of double headings with its sort of cousins.
Yeah, its more diminutive partner in crime, number 630.
And
the Southern 280 consolidation.
And
what about the other one?
And the sad outcast of the 3 great Southern excursion SARS are 722.
Yeah.
I can't English.
Fortunately, Great Smoky Mountains Railroad does have a long-term goal of rebuild the engine.
For a long-term goal, though, if money is raised.
They plan to do it.
But anyway, 4501. Over the years, it's still been running. Even with those long overhauls, the locomotive has gained a really good reputation for being a mainline excursion star occasionally. But yeah, this locomotive really does represent exactly what these engines would have done back in their day. They were strong, they were sort of fast, they served their purpose just as they needed to. And now, on to number 2, which is probably one that some of you might get mad at. Number 2. New York, Chicago, and St. Louis Railroad number 765.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is overrated. I will admit it is.
It is overrated, but there's a good reason it is. 765.
It pulls on one hell of a show.
Exactly. And, of course, it gets to go a lot of places. And, of course, a couple of other things, which I will get into right now.
And I believe they... Oh, no.
The 765 was the largest locomotive in the world to ever be restored outside. No protection, thanks to Dora McCormick. Anthony, I'm alive.
I'm out of school, and Miss Poacher wanted to ask about your schedule.
Anthony, I'm on YouTube right now. I'm live.
Who was that?
That was my little brother.
It's Anthony.
Oh, well, thank heavenly Jesus, I don't have any brothers or sisters.
But anyway, 765 is known as the largest locomotive to be completely restored outside in the open air, thanks to steam locomotive restoration expert Dora McCormick. They pulled the throttle, and the thing skidded when it was first moving under its own power, basically showing that,
Dora McCormick was involved with the 765?
Yeah, you didn't know?
No, I never heard that.
Well, now you know. He was the lucky guy who got to pull the throttle. But anyway, the 765 has really gained the reputation because, 1, its ability to go basically anywhere they can, and 2, its immense power to weight ratio. So basically, this locomotive is both strong and fast. In fact, this locomotive ran an excursion called the Juliet Rocket, in which it cruised at 60 miles an hour and occasionally even reached 75 miles an hour. Yeah. And of course, this locomotive has been no stranger to cosplays of other locomotives, those being
2765 and fellow Nickelback 767.
It actually
initially wanted, but for a story that I already talked about. But of course, the 767 was too far down the drain to be really give the city of Fort Wayne. So they decided, no, you know what? Let's just cut the 767 up, and we'll give them 765. Renumber the 767 because it's in much better shape. We want that city to have a locomotive they can actually appreciate.
Yeah. But either way,
well, when it did, when 765 was dressed up as 767 for a few years ago, it was for this annual excursion thing that it usually does called Steam in the Valley.
Yeah. And another thing, this locomotive has also been no stranger when it comes to tributations to other fallen railroads. And one of those being the Norfolk and Western, in which it went to Virginia, where it got to wear a whistle of a extinct Norfolk and Western Class Y 6B, number 2171.
Oh, the first was 6B then.
Yeah, it got to wear the whistle of that locomotive for a little while, in which it thundered down the gorge, and for the first time in 20 years, the thunder of a Norfolk and Western hooter had been heard through the valleys. And the last time they had heard it was from Norfolk and Western Class A, number 1218, which isn't on this list, sadly, because it's retired, sadly.
Oh, so we're only talking about current ones.
Current ones, yeah. And one final note about the 765. Currently, the people who own the 765 are planning to completely build a brand new museum in Fort Wayne that would not only house the 765, but also 12 other steam locomotives to either be displayed or operated.
Oh yeah, they are planning to build a new, some kind of new railroad museum. That's also that's part at the roundhouse, steam shop, museum on one. Maybe even a little passenger station built into the facility for people to hop onto and get a ride.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if there's going to be a connection to the mainline, I could see that working as like a departure point for any mainline trips that they might want to do.
Yeah. They've already started gaining progress when it comes to adding plans into the city, and they've even chosen one locomotive to do some small tourist trains, and that being Wabash Steam Locomotive number 534, which is one of only 2 remaining 060 Wabash Steam locomotives left in the world.
Oh, it's an 060.
And currently...
it was maybe
534.
Yeah, 534. But either way, this Wabash legend will, and I quote, will not vanquish no more, as a thorough inspection is done on her boiler and tender. So, yeah, there's a promising future for not only the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society, but also the 765 and maybe some future running mates.
Like the only other Wabash steam locomotive I know of prior to that was number 573, and that's a little mogul that's in St. Louis.
Well, let's begin the dance on the Wabash Cannonball. But anyway, do you guys have any guesses for number 1?
Wow, I'm gonna do honorable mentions.
Well, yeah, let's do some honorable mentions.
And we can use them as like guesses.
I guess, yeah.
Let's see.
I'm gonna guess UP 844.
Nope.
Free Racket 1225.
Nope.
I can't really say any.
Andrew,
What?
is it fiscal 1522?
Nope.
That's retired. You can't also call out any future ones, right?
We can't call any future ones.
So they have to be operational currently, and they have to be in the United States.
Yes.
And they have to be American built, right?
Yes.
Okay, that eliminates Iowa Interstate 6988, the Americanized King J.
Well, we can put. That's an honorable mention.
And of course, unfortunately for me, that fucking disqualifies.
The other one.
Oh, so you don't want to? Oh, so you don't want to mention its name?
R.J. Corman, 2008.
Yes,
Number 7040.
Old Smoky.
God.
It's named Old Smoky for some reason.
Is it 3985? No, wait, it's just back.
Nope.
Has 3985 sadly hasn't operated since 2010, Michael.
That's
I feel old.
That's a more nostalgic engine for me than, say,
let's see.
really.
They said don't look at what's been 475.
Nope.
Let's see.
I give up.
You give up?
Yes, I
Besides, you said you wanted me to talk about this engine. Oh, what is it?
Oops. Whoops. Wrong song.
The music button who I have muted on my end.
Wrong song. I put on the wrong song.
Oh. I really want to know what
You know what? This is fitting anyway. Number 1. Blue Mountain in Reading, number 425.
What?
Blue Mountain Reading 425.
Yep.
Oh, hell yeah!
The reason, well,
I don't know much about that one.
Well, I know it has
well,
fucking loud-ass stack talk.
well, before we actually get into Mike telling us the history of this locomotive,
So 425 does get an elaborate history chat.
yes,
Huh.
but
Well, I know is that it's a Pacific and that it operates in the state of Pennsylvania, right?
yeah, but I'm going to say the reasons that it's actually on this list. The locomotive is currently one of only 3 462s operating in the States, and has been pretty obscure this year. With the whole COVID thing, the locomotive has been performing like nothing happened, putting on a show as if it was just another day. And has also gained a reputation of being called the King of the Gorge. A locomotive, a strong one, and quite frankly, it's a pretty fast locomotive too, especially for excursion service. But what other than a Pacific to take the top spot on this list? Since, these locomotives in general are just amazing when it comes to power. 425, in my opinion, is the closest that America will ever come to creating their own Mallard. But either way,
There are
Not
other
only
people
that-
out there who will probably disagree, but whatever.
But anyway, another thing that this is on this list is the environment that it works in. The locomotive seems to have adapted to the area that it works in as if it really was its home. The locomotive, it shines. There's not really much to say other than this locomotive has a booming nature of showing everyone what it really can do. But anyway, Mike, would you like to incite us on the history?
With pleasure. The Reading and Northern 425 began its life back when in 1928 when it was put Oldsmobile and Northern Railroad by the Forward Locomotive Works of Eddystone, Pennsylvania, as one of the first two G-1 Pacifics ordered, the second one being 426. They would later be renumbered into 580 and 582, and were retired in the 1950s. Shortly after retirement, they were purchased by Paulson Spence as part of his Louisiana Eastern Railroad, where they were renumbered with 4 and 3, as part of a large fleet of steam engines, which Spence had acquired over time, and hauled trains of gravel and occasionally passenger trains. Unfortunately, when he died in 1961, the Louisiana Eastern Railroad collapsed, and 3 was sold for scrap, while 4 was purchased in 1962 by Malcolm Oettinger and became the power of the Valley Forge Scenic Railroad at Kimperton, Pennsylvania, which regained its original number 425. In the 1970s, it was moved over to the Wilmington and Western Railroad, which I visited last week to go see 58. And sadly, it never operated there due to its high axle load. Yeah. But in 1983, it was sold to Andrew J. Muller Jr. to power tourist trains on a newly formed Reading Blue Mountain and Reading Railroad, which some of us know nowadays is called the Reading and Northern Railroad. Alongside, of course, a certain 44 Northern that is operated from the Reading Railroad. And that is none other than 2102. And during his excursion career, it got one of the most recognizable appearances of all, being painted in the dark blue paint scheme, being inspired by the Reading Company's own Reading Crusader trains. The idea came to Mr. Ward to paint 425 in dark blue by former Reading Company engineer Charles W. Cato. And, like we mentioned in one of the last Steamtown episodes, 425 visited there for the grand opening of the Steamtown National Historical Site, where we also portrayed 2 steam engines, of course. But nevertheless, 425 ran excursions until 1996, where it took a long year of breaks. But luckily, around 2007, it came back to service, being used for test running. And in 2008, it got its most recognizable look of all, having a front-setted headlight at the front and a bell mounted on top, which I have to agree is possibly my favorite look for 425. What do you guys think about the look of it?
Honestly, it's got to be the best.
I mean, the circle head number plate's good, but the centered headlight beats it better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But either way, 425
But
takes
today,
this.
But today, 425 is still around today in operational excursion service, as operated during the COVID-19 situation, where it operated on the Lehigh Gorge Scenic Railway. And I got to see 425 this year, and she really put it on a show. So much so, I paid 425 2 times during one of her trips.
Wow. But yeah. 425 has made it the top of the list for one of only 3 462s operating in the States, 2, its sole survivor status, 3, its previous excursion star life, 4, its beautiful paint scheme and appearance altogether, and 5, its overall strength and fuel capacity and overall performance, and 5, the beautiful sound of the locomotive just from hearing it in the gorge. With the booming whistle and loud stack talk, this locomotive has solidified its place as number 1 on my top 10 best steam excursion stars.
Yeah, and I would also say that also Brooklyn Eastern District Terminal 15 should have been also an honorable mention because it also puts on a good show too.
Yeah.
Thomas at Strasbourg.
Oh, of course.
But either way, that was the list. So what did you guys think?
I liked it.
Any
It's all right.
is there anything that you need to let out?
Not really.
Same.
Well, I can't wait to see I can't wait for the top 10 worst locomotives list, that will be episode.
Worst Steam Excursion stars.
Worst Steam Excursion star.
That'll be 15.
That yeah, actually, it will be number. No, actually, it won't be episode 15 because the next list we're doing the Soul Survivors for the Thanksgiving special.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, I guess.
Wonder, what's the next episode we're gonna do?
What's next week?
Next week? Next week is a little bit of a, it's not really talking about a scenic railroad, but rather the history of one type of locomotive. And that's
What wheel arrangement are we talking about?
not just a wheel arrangement, but the start of a new generation of steam locomotives that created, in the end, the world's strongest steam locomotive.
We're going to talk about the 2882.
We're going to be talking about Malays.
Yeah,
Nothing but Malays.
articulated.
We're going to be talking about Excursion Malays. We're going to be talking about future Malays. We're going to be talking about the strongest. We're going to be talking about the worst. We're going to be talking about the first. We're going to be talking about the last. We're basically going to be talking about nothing but Malays. Since these locomotives...
Nothing but unarticulated, which includes the triplexes. Because they were compound articulated too.
You
you just dug your own grave right there.
Yeah. You have to remind me.
Joe. On that bombshell, it's time to end.
Yeah. Well, we will see you guys next time where we're going to be talking about Malays. And
Where you're going to scream your ass off.
and expect us to talk about, of course, 1309, which is going to be returning to service very, very soon.